But this is what I say to people. I say, this is the time to establish yourself online on social media as an industry authority. And that
Okay.
takes time. I mean, I've been doing this since 2019. So, yeah, I put my time in. But when I think back to when I first started, I didn't have any connections. I didn't have any followers. I put posts up. Nobody liked them. Nobody saw them. Nobody anything.
This is Vernon Reed with Cybersecurity News Now, and today we have a really good one. We have Miss Dana Mantilia. She is the CEO of Dana. So she's within cybersecurity and she's within the marketing space. She provides folks a lot of education, a lot of information on cybersecurity and how the industry is continuing to grow. So Dana, just to start off, how did you get into your role as Cyber Dana?
So I started back in around, let's say 2019, doing some educational little videos on LinkedIn and about trying to help people get better awareness about the scammers that were out there and about identity theft. And then as time was going on and cybersecurity was becoming more, a little bit more known, I started doing a little bit of helpful tips to help people protect themselves, their young kids that are on all these apps on their phone, and, then their elder parents that are answering the phone at home and, maybe giving away things that they should not be giving away, information and the such. So I started doing that, and that led to some non-technical cybersecurity training for non-technical employees, because those are the people that are causing a lot of the problems. And I am not a technical person, so I certainly can't help you with your router or, fixing a firewall or anything like that. But my whole thing is more about just spreading awareness and starting to create conversations about cybersecurity, because we all have to realize that this is not going away, and we all need to culturally embrace this within our own homes and in our workplace and, all that kind of stuff. So I started doing that. And then somebody asked me, I don't know, two years ago, if I was going to get involved with CMMC. I didn't even know what that was. And so I Googled it and I found out it's the Department of Defense's cybersecurity program that they're launching. And I thought, well, I'd love to get involved, but what am I going to do to help out here? So I thought, well, what I can do is I can go play Oprah over on YouTube, and I can do interviews with all these really, really smart people. So that's what I did. So I started creating a little library for people that may be finding out that they have this CMMC that they need to start abiding by, and they can go and they can find little tidbits of the whole program broken down into different variety of topics. So then that led to these really smart people saying, hey, well, can you help me with some social media? And I said, well, sure, I can help you with that. So I started working with some of these people, and then I found myself repeating over and over the same thing. So I put together my program, which is CyberSocial. And that is now it's a very, very step-by-step, very organized program that helps MSPs and cybersecurity professionals really learn how to navigate social media, especially on LinkedIn.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so that's a great journey. So basically, many times I have a question for people, right? Have you dealt with, or have you come into imposter syndrome, right? And how do you deal with that? And as I was listening to your story, you said, you know what, I'm not a technical person. I know that, right? But here's what I can do. And then you kind of pivoted towards saying, well, let me provide information in a different way, or let me facilitate things in a different way, right? When you speak to individuals now who might come into cybersecurity or come into a technical field and say, hey, I don't have that experience, I don't even know where to begin, how do you guide them, especially now based on your own experience?
Well, one thing that does happen to me is people do reach out and ask me how to get into the cybersecurity field. And I feel terrible because I'm not the person they should be asking. But so what I'm trying to do is put together a bridge of people that are looking for employees, and maybe some people new to the industry, and some way to bridge with the people that are looking for those jobs, because there really is not a lot of continuity when it comes to people that are looking for the jobs, for people that are getting the jobs in the cybersecurity field specifically. And, one thing that I'm finding is looking at these college fairs, even right now versus let's say five or 6 years ago. A lot more colleges have cybersecurity majors that they didn't even just 5 or 6 years ago. So now we're going to have all these young people coming into the field with these cybersecurity degrees, and we need to start finding a career path, because what's happening now is every entry level position is asking for 3 to 5 years experience, and you can't have 3 to 5 years experience when you're brand new, right? So we have to get them on some kind of an internship program or something, along those lines, so that we can set them up for success, because we know that the cybersecurity field is only going to get more and more important as time is going on. It's obviously very important now, but as a more awareness and people adopt it more, I guess I should say, there's going to be a real need, to do that. So I tell people, one of the things that you should do first and foremost is work on your LinkedIn profile, because that's something that somebody can very easily send over. So the first thing I say to people when they reach out to me, I say, well, how's your LinkedIn profile? And sometimes it's really good and it looks great and everything. And sometimes they're like, well, I don't really have anything on there. And they don't even have a picture of themselves. And they don't even have anything on the LinkedIn banner at the top. So we work on, kind of putting that together. And I tell them, I said, as you're going through your career, if you're doing an internship, if you win an award, if you're involved in something, you should take a picture and just put it on LinkedIn as a post, because what you're doing is, in essence, you're creating this resume. So time is going on and people may not see your post when you initially post it, but let's say a year goes by and you have 10 posts on there of 10 great things that you've done. And somebody says, hey, let me send you over this person's LinkedIn profile. And boom, all that information is going to carry along. And so it's just a great way to make sure you don't forget about some of the things that you've accomplished. And then also just to make sure that someone can go and they can quickly look on there. So that would be something that I would say is, that's an easy one, is to start with your LinkedIn profile.
Okay. So, when it comes, you've been talking about you mentioned the progression, of cybersecurity, how it's becoming, it's everybody's buzzword today, right? And there are a lot of companies that are looking for cybersecurity professionals. From your standpoint, have you seen even changes within executive level, board levels, as far as how they prioritize cybersecurity?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of it has to do with the liability that's coming along with this now, because whether, the government is mandating it upon you because of a contract you have, or just the thought of, if something does happen, what are you going to say to your clients? What were you doing beforehand? Because you can't rewind the clock once it happens. So there needs to be a proactiveness to this, as well as with cyber liability insurance. Cyber liability insurance these days, sometimes they send the questionnaire out, and depending upon how you answer it, they won't even give you a quote, because they know that you're not taking it as seriously as they need you to be. Which is completely different. If you go back 5, 6, 7 years ago and you wanted cyber liability, you didn't have to do anything. You're just like, sure, let me just pay the premium, and that was it. But now, obviously, with these ransomware attacks and everything, these insurance companies are taking, quite a big hit. So I think that's being taken into consideration too. If we want to keep our cyber liability insurance, what do we have to do in-house? And it's a slow adoption. It really, really is. And I think what a lot of organizations need is a position that I like to call it the BISO, the Business Information Security Officer. And it's kind of that bridge between the security department, right, the CISO, and the non-technical employees, right? So someone that understands the technical aspect enough to be able to communicate it, and really understands what they need to communicate to the regular employees. Because again, like I said, those are the ones that are clicking on things and being socially engineered. So that's the ones that need to make sure that they're being, taught what to look for. So that would be what I would say with that.
I'm smiling really big because you mentioned the term BISO, Business Information Security Officer. So I read about that just about a little over a month ago, right? And I was going to put out a video like BISO, there's CISO, there is, Chief Information Data Officer, there is the CIO. It's this alphabet soup of different roles and responsibility. And one of the biggest challenges that I've found within cybersecurity is that there's so many different frameworks. There's so many different ways that people can come at cybersecurity, right? Where should I look as far as frameworks or standards when it comes to cybersecurity and securing my business?
Well, I think one of the reasons that people don't approach cybersecurity at all is because it gets so overwhelming right out of the gate. right?
Yeah.
Oh no, am I going to follow? What framework am I going to have to follow? What am I going to have to do here? They don't know where to start there. So that's when they're like, you know what, we'll deal with this later on. As opposed to just saying, okay, at the end of the day, all the frameworks are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to keep you secure, your data secure, your employees secure. That's what they're trying to do. Whatever you want
Yeah.
to call it, however you want to go about it, at the end of the day, that's what it is. So I always say that everybody should, let's just pick some of the basic things, right? I did a video the other day saying, if someone said, okay, everybody needs to learn, how to speak Japanese. You'd say, oh we can't do that. There's no way we could do that. But if you said, okay, everybody's going to learn how to say hello in Japanese. So everybody needs to learn how to say konnichiwa, and if we're walking around konnichiwa, everyone is saying hello to each other, right? That's a lot. You can do that. So now everybody is talking about that. Then if you say, okay, now we're going to learn how to say goodbye in Japanese. Now everyone's talking about that. And the most important part about this whole thing about the Japanese language is that we're talking about it. We're saying, hey, look, we're learning about how to say, how to speak Japanese by learning how to say hello. It's the same thing with cybersecurity. If organizations went in and just did two things, they made sure that all of their employees had a very secure password, different than what they have now. And they made sure that they had multi-factor authentication on their devices.
Yep.
Those two things are going to make them 90% more secure than they are now. So that's something people can wrap their head around. When you start to say, okay, we're going to follow, if you even looked at the CMMC compliance framework, you'd be like, whoa, it's just out of control and overwhelming. So that is not a good way to go about it. Let's just start with one step at a time. And I think that's what companies need to do. But no one is saying that to them. So what they're thinking is exactly what you're thinking. We need to go out and follow NIST, 800-171. We need to go follow some framework. And they just don't do it because they're busy doing their everyday, work. So that would be my advice, that they should just start with those two basics.
Start with those basics. I appreciate that. And that's what I usually share with folks as well. And the position you had mentioned before for BISO, is that more, I guess, would be an enterprise role, right? Where you already have a CIO? Do you already have a CISO, a CISO, and you still need a business information security officer? What are you seeing as far as those roles?
Well, I think with any organization, and it sounds like a very fancy term, oh, the BISO, I'm the BISO, but let's just take someone who's in charge of HR at a company, even if it's a small company, right?
Right.
And you said, okay, we're going to give you some extra, work to do, right? It would be a lot less expensive for that business to pay this person a little bit extra than to bring in a whole separate company or a whole separate person to help them with their cybersecurity. So now you take this HR person and you say, I want you to make sure everybody goes and changes their password. I want you to make sure that you work with, the CISO to get MFA on all of the devices. Okay, those two things. Now, after you do that, you say, okay, now we want you to make sure that we're going to put some kind of an incident response plan. Let's say something happens. I want you to know that you can tell the employees, what are they supposed to be doing? What are they not supposed to be doing? Are they on social media telling the world, hey, we're at work, we're getting hacked right now? We don't want that going on. We don't want people unplugging, plugging, trying to fix the computer themselves. So that would be another really good thing that you could give. And again, these are non-technical things that someone who is organized, like typically someone who's in HR, they could do. And they're also increasing their value as an employee. So you're taking all these things on, and then let's say you moved or you wanted to go somewhere else. And you said, I'm an HR person, but I can also help you, start with some of your basic cybersecurity with your employees. That's huge value. That's huge, huge value. So I don't think it necessarily has to be a big, huge enterprise. I'm sure that they would have, people like that. But I think in any kind of a organization, you could create that role.
Okay. I've recently been doing more marketing myself, and I realized, before I was like, the technical part is where it's at, et cetera. But being able to translate tech into basically rubber meets the road language and messaging, I know how important that is, right? You have a career in this. You have a career in marketing, and you have taken on that challenge of taking something like cybersecurity and being able to market it well. So, what are some common challenges that you find in crafting messaging that I guess that speaks some directly to, maybe to the decision maker or to the others? What are some of the things that you find when it comes to marketing that people can adapt to make their marketing better?
Well, I run into this all the time, every single day with all of the people that I work with because they're very smart, very technical people, but they have to understand that the business owner that they're trying to explain that they need the cybersecurity, they don't understand any of that. So they
Right.
need to bring it down to a really, really low level. And I say you need to bring it down so that you could explain it to a kid. And it's not to be demeaning of the, the business owner you're going to talk to, but it's a language that is more understandable because it's like anything. When somebody talks to us and it starts going over our head, it's an automatic reaction that you just want to shut down and you want to end the conversation as quickly as you can because nobody likes to be in a situation where someone's talking to them and the other person doesn't understand. It feels like maybe they should understand,
Right.
what they're saying. So that is definitely what people need to do is to take their message and to just break it down and then break it down again. And that's what I wind up doing with a lot of people that I work with where they get very hung up on making sure that they know every single aspect of something. Like let's say CMMC, when I'm helping companies with marketing, they get nervous that I don't know every single aspect of CMMC. I said, let me tell you one thing a business owner is never, ever, ever going to do. They're never going to say, can I give you CMMC? Can you tell me what CMMC 3.1.0 is? They're not going to say that. They don't know what that is. They don't even know that there's a 3.1.0 kind of thing. So you just need to be able to talk to them in a language that they can really understand.
You just made me raise my hand like if I was in church. Like when you said, you always want to find, make sure you know everything. I think that comes from a technical world, right? Like my background is
Mm-hmm.
electrical engineering. I was doing networking. And you're supposed to be the person who's a subject matter expert. You're supposed to be the person who's able to implement that thing and know everything, right? And many times I've felt like, I don't know everything about this. I can't speak to this. Who am I to really be sharing this or advising this? Going back to that imposter syndrome I was telling you about, am I really the person who should be giving out this information, et cetera, et cetera? But I appreciate what you just shared because no one knows everything. That's one. And I remember reading recently, someone was saying, you know what, maybe you should just share the information that someone that you would have needed 2 steps back or 3 steps back, right? So even if you don't know everything now, guess what? You know a little bit more than someone who's 2 or 3 steps behind you, And so what you just said and what that I think it was a quote shared helped me kind of understand that we don't have to come in with all this pressure that we know everything, right? But being able to share that information, being able to share that knowledge, share it appropriately is where it's at. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. And one thing too, a lot of IT people, I hear this, they say, "Oh, I can't get into cybersecurity. I'm not comfortable enough, in that world." And I say, "Well, let me tell you this: the people that your clients, your customers, they think you're already taking care of cybersecurity because they're looking at you and they're saying, this is the guy that takes care of the computer. So in their mind, they're taking care of the cybersecurity that's going to occur through the computer." And I know that sounds silly, but I am telling you, if you talk to regular,
You're true.
yeah. So I say, so they already think you're doing it. So you might as well say, hey, we're adding additional services. We're now going to be covering this because you know what the person they're going to say? Oh, I thought you were already doing that. But I think they need to have more confidence in saying, okay, I know IT like the back of my hand, right? And now I'm going to be moving into cybersecurity, and you could just take it again. It's that slow pace. They can walk a little bit, but they get intimidated because they don't understand everything about it. And that's why I say, well, don't get that imposter syndrome. Just go ahead. I mean, what we're trying to do is just protect things. So just go protect one thing, then go protect another thing, and then the confidence is going to build within them that, okay, I can handle this. I can work with people and help protect their stuff.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So tell me, what do you foresee any upcoming trends or challenges? What do you see as far as any trends to look for in the future?
Well, as far as cybersecurity in general, I feel like it's going to explode. The need and the demand is going to explode, whether it be government compliance that's being required, or it's just something that, a larger vendor that you have is requiring it upon you, whatever, something along those lines. But it's coming. It is absolutely positively coming. And when everybody starts embracing it, the industry is just, I mean, there's just going to be so much business for everybody. we're not quite there yet, but this is what I say to people. I say, this is the time to establish yourself online on social media as an industry authority. And that
Okay.
takes time. I mean, I've been doing this since 2019. So, yeah, I put my time in. But when I think back to when I first started, I didn't have any connections. I didn't have any followers. I put posts up. Nobody liked them. Nobody saw them. Nobody anything. I'm serious. So
Does that
then,
happen to
then
you too?
but when I first started and somebody would like my post, I literally would send them a message and say, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to like my post. They probably thought I was, a little cuckoo, but it meant a lot to me. And that's how I kind of, help build my my network. So that's what you need to do. And the more somebody sees you, I would say probably the first 20 times, somebody sees you or somebody saw me, they probably eventually were like, who is this kooky girl? What is she doing on here? What is she saying? And then maybe they started to, watch one of my little videos or something like that. So it takes time. So if you start putting your face out there and sharing really helpful stuff for free, just free tips, you're just giving out free content, people will start to see you as an industry authority. You're going to start to gain more online visibility because LinkedIn is going to start to say, hey, this person is sharing really helpful information. So they're going to start exposing your content to more people. You'll start to grow your network because people will want to follow you or want to connect with you because you seem like you're interesting. And that's the best way to start now, because when the time does come that they take cybersecurity seriously, you're going to be the first one that they think about. And if you really look around right now, this is what I say to all the people I work with. There's not a lot of people out there doing video, number one, on LinkedIn, and certainly not in the cybersecurity field. So there's a couple of people out there that are doing a little bit, and they're like the rock stars compared to everybody else. So there's just a huge opportunity out there for folks in this industry when it comes to that.
Great. Thank you for that feedback. And I just want to share, you just dropped some gems there, right? So, one, if everyone is listening, Dana just shared that, even when she started out, no one was listening or kind of liking her post, right? We all have to start somewhere, and it doesn't mean that when we start, it's going to be great. Second, a real gem that she just shared was the persons who liked it, she would send them a message. I just heard about that, like, I think it's about 3-4 months ago, where they're talking about cultivating the customers that you do have, even if it's just one, right? Even if it's a potential. And so it sounds like if you cultivated those, you just said, hey, you know what? Thank you. Appreciate you liking it. And that in itself extended that connection, right? The other thing is you shared about providing value. Not just, so your idea was, what can I provide of value to someone else out there? Not just blasting somebody on social media or putting something up. What can you add of value? So anyway, just wanted to make sure that I highlighted those. That was great, great feedback there.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's easy to share are quick little wins. Like if you can do a short video and just share something that somebody can put into play right then and there, right? Like let's just say, for example, one of the ones I do is on Snapchat, and it talks about how you should tell your kids, make sure that they have their location service shut off and they're in ghost mode on Snapchat, which they don't want to have because they want everyone to know where they are, and the dangers associated with everyone knowing where you are, especially because a lot of these kids, they just share their location with everybody, right? They let anybody follow them because they want to have a lot of high numbers, and then they want everyone to see their location. That's very dangerous. So if you do a quick little video on that, somebody walks away and they go, whoa, I didn't even know that was a thing. Snapchat had a location thing. So they go home and they talk to their kids. That's a perfect example of a quick short win. Or doing a little video on, when's the last time your employees changed their password? Right? Something along that. When's the last time you got new email addresses? Little things that they can just watch quickly and, take away and say, I can act on this and do one little thing to make me baby steps, more secure.
Okay. Question. Do you focus mainly on LinkedIn, or do you extend your reach to the other social media platforms? And how do you find that? Like sometimes people say, should I focus on one social media platform or should I do kind of all of them? What is your take?
So my take is, especially for people that aren't doing anything right now, is to start on LinkedIn, because this is where our audiences are, right? Doesn't mean they're not over there, playing around on Instagram or over on Facebook, with their friends. That doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that they definitely are probably here. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're starting there. And then once we kind of get things down, then it's very, very easy to say, okay, you know what, now what I'm going to do, I have all this content. Now I'm going to start posting it over here. Now I'm going to start putting it on, X. Now I'm going to start putting it on Facebook or something like that. But I think it gets too overwhelming when you start off saying, I'm going to attack everything all at once, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, LinkedIn is a good place to start. There's a lot of opportunity here. And once you've kind of got that down, then you can say, okay, I've got content that I created. I posted on LinkedIn. I got really good responses from it, or I didn't get really good responses, whatever happened. Then you know what's your good stuff that you can then go post on another platform. If you're making video content, starting to create a YouTube library is a great thing. I just started on YouTube, I want to say 2 years ago. My YouTube channel is doing pretty well. But I definitely been on LinkedIn a lot longer. But I really don't even go on the other platforms, even personally. I'm not really a social media person. That's just a personal thing. But I think I would just say start with one thing, and then then you can grow.
You're not a social media person, and you're in marketing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great, because that's how I feel. So I mean, I'm on Facebook because I have a lot of family on there, and they're spread across the world. So I like, so every now and then I check in, but I don't like the social media platforms that much either, right? So anyway, another gem from Dana. You don't have to be into social media for you to be able to utilize it, effectively and profitably.
Mm-hmm.
So Dana, I want to ask about, get a little bit more into the weeds here with CMMC, right? I recently saw that, but I don't know much about it. So tell me a little bit more about CMMC and why we should care about it more than any of the other, frameworks or standards that, are coming out.
So CMMC, which is a Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, that's what it stands for. And the Department of Defense is the one right now that is launching it. It's been taking a while with finalizing rules and then having people's input in. So the problem with it taking so long, which this has been now, I want to say it's probably going on 2 years. It looks like it's going to be finalized. The rule is going to be finalized in possibly the latest November 30th. And then it's either going to go into effect the first quarter of 2024 or the third quarter or first quarter of 2025. So fourth quarter 24 or first quarter 25. So anyway, that is a very specific framework, right? That's once it's adopted by the Department of Defense, it's going to get adopted by other agencies, other departments of the government. Now, Homeland Security, which I was unaware of this, Homeland Security, I was told they are not going to be following this. They are following kind of the same, they want to protect the same stuff, but they're going about it a little bit differently. And but I think what they mean is it's basically going to be a similar framework, but the requirements are not going to be as stringent upon the small and medium businesses. But anyway, the moral of the story is just like GDPR, it's going to become something that whether it's CMMC that gets broken down into something else or translated into something else, but I think everybody that has anything relationship with the government is absolutely going to need to follow some rendition of CMMC, what that is. And again, we talked about cyber liability insurance a little bit. If you want to have cyber liability insurance, you are going to have to put very specific things in place. So it's kind of, the walls are closing in from different areas, and eventually everybody's going to have to be following something, to protect their organization.
And many of these things, you mentioned it, strong password, multi-factor authentication. There are other things as far as, do you even have like an incident response plan in place, right? Or some method to say, hey, if we do have a breach, or what are some of the actions that you need to take? I recently heard that I know, like right now, public companies have to report, I think, within 30 days of an attack, on that attack. When it comes to small, medium-sized businesses, are they under those same rules, or do those same things apply?
Well, everything right now is state by state. And depending
Okay.
upon which state you're in, like for example, Connecticut and I believe it's Ohio, those two, that if you do follow one of the frameworks, like let's say CISA or NIST, or you follow one of those and you can prove that you have put that in place, that compliance framework in place in your business, if you do suffer a breach, you will not be held liable from any of the fees and fines that are associated with that. So that's really, really good for the people that are taking advantage of it, and the people
Yeah.
are actually following it. But just the opposite, if you're not, you definitely are going to get hit with that. And people need to remember that once you are hit by a ransomware attack or some kind of a data breach attack or something like that, a lot of these businesses go out of business.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that, but that's the reality of the situation. And especially the small and medium-sized businesses, because they don't think they're going to get hit because they say, I don't have anything of any value. Well, the hackers know that. So that's what the first thing that they say is, well, where's the low-hanging fruit? Let's go hit these guys because they're not doing anything to protect themselves. So
I tell
anyway.
people that all the time. One is that you don't realize how much value you have until something is taken, right? And so they know that you don't have the proper maybe procedures or personnel in place, and therefore you are, like you said, easy pickings, right, for the cyber attackers. All right. So, is there anything that I could ask you, or that you would love to share with the audience with regard to what you do or the space that you're in?
Sure. So like what I do with working with MSPs and cybersecurity teams is I help them start from the beginning of identifying exactly who their client is, and once they really identify who that is, the more we can niche it down, the better it is. And I say this because, especially when you're crafting a message on social media, when you're trying to say, like, let's say I'm a weight loss coach and I say, well, I can help anybody lose weight. It's just calories and exercise. When I try to put messaging together and I'm speaking about that on social media, it's not really resonating with anybody in particular. There's nobody that's saying, oh, she's talking to me. But when I
Right.
say, I work with middle-aged men that are dieting and working out, and they're really trying to lose that last 10 pounds. And I talk about recipes, things that they would be interested in, exercises that they could be interested in, that is going to catch their attention because they're going to feel like I'm speaking to them. So that's why I say, you really need to figure out who your client is. And some of them say to me, well, cybersecurity is for everybody. I can do anything. It doesn't matter what business they're in. And I'm sure you probably can provide cybersecurity for a lot of those companies, but you just can't create messaging around that to speak to all those people at the same time. So I would say whatever you want to do on social media specifically is really identify who that niche audience is. Then when you have that, what are you going to say to them? What's going to separate you from, the next person? What's the messaging that's going to say, okay, that person stands out, that team stands out versus, the last 12 teams I've talked to. So that we do that. And then we come up with some content that's going to stop the scroll. We have to remember, so LinkedIn, people are just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling until something grabs their attention. So we want to make sure that whatever content we're creating is going to be something that's going to be interesting enough that someone's going to pause and say, what's this? Let me take a look. And that's what we're looking for. Just that initial, what's this? Let's take a look. And then hopefully they'll watch it a little bit. It's a lot different than YouTube. So YouTube, you're going over there and you're typing in what you're looking for. So you might get caught in a rabbit hole eventually when you're on YouTube, but initially you're going and you're typing something and you're looking for something. And LinkedIn is very, very different. So we try to make sure we have really good content. Then we put it all together and we do a team leader interview, which I think is very, very helpful because people love to take a peek behind the curtain and see who actually works there. Let's see them. Let's see their personalities. Let's see if they can talk to me in a language I'm going to understand. So we do a really great promotional video that is really highlighting the team, highlighting what they can do, who their audience is. And then that's great because it's a long video that then gets cut up into short little video clips. So it's a great way to help someone who's not comfortable getting in front of the camera, like most people, and getting a video clip of them saying something where they're speaking to their audience. So we do that, and then we put it all together nice and neat in a content calendar, and they have a year's worth of content. We go over what the best practices are for LinkedIn because a lot of people don't know how to navigate LinkedIn. I had no idea when I started. I didn't know. Do you post
Trial
10
by
times
fire.
a day? Yeah. Do you post one time a day? Like, how do you go about this? I had no idea. So anyway, I've learned now, so I share some of that stuff. So by the time they're done, they literally know, okay, I have a whole plan for a year, and I know how to go about maximizing the power of LinkedIn and the algorithm. So that's kind of in a nutshell how the program works. And it's been pretty helpful for people. So
in marketing, I know that there are many ways to kind of skin a cat, they would say. I know that you have a group on LinkedIn, and there are posts that you do. You're working with MSPs. What are some of the other things that that you do, right, that Cyber Dana does, that we should know about out there, that we can get in contact with you, etc.?
Sure. So one of the groups that I am an admin for, manager for, is the cybersecurity community, the LinkedIn group. I'm not the owner of it. Kyle Lai is, but I'm helping. And what we're doing is we're trying to make the group more interactive. It's a really, really interactive group already. We have a badge for high activity, which is really, really nice. That means a lot of the members are liking and commenting and posting. And so that's really, really good. And one of the things that we're doing is we're starting to collect email addresses from that group because we have a newsletter that's going to go out. And it's going to highlight some of the members. It's going to highlight different topics. A lot of what I see that people are looking for in that group is career advice. So there's going to be some information on different ways that people can either get into cyber, or if they're looking for a more senior position. So we're going to be talking about things like that. And then eventually what we want to do is we want to get into having different events and different places where different people can post things. It's in its beginning stages, but the group right now is just growing by leaps and bounds. I mean, we already have, I think it's 120,000 members. Every single day, there's between 500 and 700 new people that want to join the group. So, and it's an international group. There's people from all over the world. So there's a huge opportunity for us to take that group of people and really do something special with it so that people feel like they're a part of something and feel like they have people they can ask questions to and, look for guidance, and people can provide guidance that have that information. So that's one of the other really, really things that I do that I'm really proud of.
Tell me the name of that group again.
Cybersecurity Community.
CyberSecurity Community. Okay. Go out and join that group right now.